Ruthwell Cross, which is one of the Anglo-Saxon great masterpieces of sculpture. When it comes to dating of this cross, scholars still debate. So some claim that it was carved around 700 up to 750. And here we've got the wider face, the cross filled in panels with figural carvings, and those which are narrower at the back, we've got decorations. These decorations is said to have come from different places like Eastern Mediterranean, continental places, and of course Coptic. Those great decorations, ornamentation with animals like interlaced in between these plants are possibly from Egypt, because they resemble some kind of Coptic textiles, according to scholars. Also, very important is to remember that even though we've got a lot of elements here coming from different places of different origins, very dominant here is the Celtic element, which was born here on the British Isles. Very significant are also influences coming from Scandinavia, so from Nordic countries. Then when the Viking started to have a greater impact on the culture, they are more and more visible also in Christian art. So we are going to say something more, especially on the figural representations of the panels of the wider sides of the wider faces of the cross. Very important is also to remember that the cross contains two different languages and two different alphabets. So it contains Runic, so the alphabet of the Old English language, and Roman letters written in a semi-Irish hand. So in Runic letters, we've got the Dream of the Holy Rood, or the Dream of the Rood. It's an epic poem, one of the oldest in the Anglo-Saxon history. And this Dream of the Rood is actually about the cross itself, which is the first person experiencing the time when Christ was nailed to the cross. So cross itself tells a story how it was the device of the torture. So this is a very important and very old Anglo-Saxon poem. When it comes to Roman letters, those letters actually they describe what is in the panels mostly, but as you will see in a moment, they are not always exactly match with the words, so you need to interpret what is inside the panels. Let's start from this side, because we've got here a very important, one of the largest panels in the cross. Here is Christ in Majesty, or Christ as Salvator Mundis, or Savior of the world, or in other words, the second coming of Christ. So Christ is holding possibly the Book of Life as a scroll, okay, and he has got his right hand raised, okay, and he is standing upon two animals, two beasts. And this fragment is very, this representation is very rare in art, in Christian art, and it usually illustrates Psalm 91st of verses from 11 up to 13. It is about Jesus trampling two beasts, namely lion and other, so snake, in the desert, and archangels or angels serving him. As a matter of fact, Jesus here is not trampling these two beasts. This is more like two beasts recognizing him as their God. So that's the difference. And as you can see, their paws here, their legs, they are crossing. So this is the symbol of the cross inside. So they are venerating him as their God. So above we've got the inscription, and we can read actually in Roman letters, but I will translate it. Jesus Christ, the judge, Jesus of righteousness, the beasts and dragons recognized in the desert the savior of the world. So it means that these beasts actually are represented here to point to their God. And this psalm is as much as the reference to the gospel. Gospel according to Mark, in the first chapter, verse 14, when there is a story about Jesus tempted by the Satan in the desert for 40 days, and there are also beasts in the wilderness together with angels serving him. The same appear also in Matthew and Luke about angels who are offering services to Jesus while he is in the desert, in the wilderness. As you can see here, we've got a reference to the desert, the wilderness, and that subject is very important for the Celtic monks, for the Celtic church, and for the monks also from Northumbria when this cross was carved. So, apart from Jesus in the wilderness or in Majesty, we can see also the prophet of the Logos. So this is Saint John the Baptist. Okay, so John the Baptist is associated with the desert because he was hurt in the desert. He spent his time in the desert, and he's holding the lamp of God in his arms. So he is precedor, he's the prophet of the lamp, so of Jesus. Okay, and just below we've got another scene which is associated with the desert, and these are two saints. These two saints are very often represented in Ireland and in Scotland, but in different two versions. Here is one of the versions with two saints, Saint Anthony and Saint Paul, sharing the bread in the desert. As you can see, there is a vertical line because they are sharing the bread at once, because they were arguing who should be the first, and each of them wanted to give the priority to the other. Finally, they decided to divide this bread together, and there is this vertical line. So they are standing in front of each other and they're sharing the bread. In Irish version and some part of Scotland, there is another character of this scene. This is a raven who is bringing the bread from above. But here, the raven is missing. So Saint Anthony and Saint Paul are represented on like over 24 crosses in Ireland itself. In Scotland, there are many examples as well, and there are two different versions of this representation. And in Northumbria, as you can see, this scene appears very early. I think the earliest of all in this version. And in Europe, this scene appears only in the Romanesque and maybe 3-4 times only. So it means that the Celtic monks, also in Northumbria, on the British Isles, they were actually very attracted to the history of the saints from the Egyptian desert, because these two saints are Coptic saints, the fathers of the desert, who were followed by the eremits from Hiberno, Scotland. So as I said, there are two versions, and one of the great scholars says that possibly one of the versions with the raven, because both of them must have appeared very early in Egypt. Now we've got the earliest scene with the raven and two saints in Egypt from the 6th century. But there are modern scenes with two saints sharing the bread. So there is no doubt that this scene in both versions was started in Egypt. And then possibly, as Porter suggests, the version with the raven came to Ireland directly from Egypt, and then also to part of the Scotland. And the other one, this one, from Egypt, then Scotland, Northumbria or Northumbria, Scotland, and possibly Europe.